Speaking things League 123, let's talk to our man Mark Levy. 2GB's CCC, that's continuous call team. Mark, before we even start anything, please give us what you know of how David is. Because, that news is absolutely devastating, but he's very helpful over a number of years and a great friend of the show.
Oh, he's in good spirits. It's brain cancer, so it's not good. We've all been rocked by it back here too, but he's in good spirits. He's receiving treatment, and I know one thing that he's desperate to do is go on another holiday with his darling wife, Christine. So I hope to go and see him tomorrow, actually. So I'll pass on the regards of all of his wonderful fans over there in NZ, including you, Marty.
Thank you so much, my friend. All right, continuous call team. It is absolutely brilliant radio. We used to have it here in New Zealand when I was working on Radio Sport. We switched it on the weekends, mate. It's just absolutely compelling. Vegas to start with. You're on that trip, man. So just give us a quick thoughts and impressions.
Well, it was my first time in the United States, my first time in Vegas, and as somebody who doesn't mind a punt and a drink, it's a very dangerous place for someone like me. But I thought the NRL did a wonderful job. It was everything worked well. There's going to be little teething problems that they'll address and sort out for the years to come. But I think a good barometer on the success of it was when you jumped into an Uber and the American driver says, "Oh, you're Australian, you're here for the rugby." So they knew about it.
Yep.
A lot's been made about the 60,000 people who watched on American television. I think that number's only going to grow. So Peter V'landys, he was my first boss when I was 17. Everything he touches turns to gold. And the thing I love about it is that we're trying new things. We're trying to get a new audience. We're trying to capitalise on the success of rugby league. And I regard it as the greatest game of all time. So here's to a long, fruitful future in the United States and a few more people watching in Vegas as well.
Yeah, look, and, a part of it is the show, the razzmatazz, and there's no bigger place in the world to actually do that. Whether or not the sport gains a foothold like American sports, it probably won't. But if you get some kind of a toehold into the American gambling scene, the sports betting, well, that's a cash cow, and I think that's really where V'landys might just be edging.
Well, and that's the thing. We only need to secure 0.01% of the population and the gambling revenue, and we're talking about millions and millions of dollars that can be reinvested in the game into grassroots, potentially another team over there in New Zealand. The world is sort of our oyster at the moment, and a lot of people are critical of the NRL over a whole range of things, but good on them for trying something new. The AFL over here in Australia is talking about taking a game to Vegas now or to the United States. So we've become the pioneers and the trendsetters here, and a lot of people forget that if it wasn't for the forward thinking of V'landys and Abdo and all those at Rugby League Central at the NRL, we may not even be here talking about rugby league, thinking back to the pandemic because of the financial fragilities of the game. So I say good on them, congratulations to them. I'm the first person to be critical of them over a whole range of things, but when it comes to Vegas and the States, I think they're on a winner.
Good on you for saying that, because I remember during COVID when Peter V'landys first put his hand up, he says, bloody, stuff this, mate, we're going to get this game going. I was going, he's in cloud cuckoo land, this guy doesn't have a bloody hope in hell. I'd eat humble pie, and I took my hat off to him and said, fantastic job. So if he's got another dream and something in the pipeline, well, who are we to poo-poo it? All right, first round. And got to say, Mark, as well, Super Rugby's been on for 3 rounds. It's been great. It's, the viewing has been fantastic. What do you make of that first round of the NRL in totality?
I thought it was a really enjoyable first week of footy. Obviously, it was split with 2 games in Vegas, but you come back here to Australia, and if you tipped the round in the tipping competition, you've done a lot better than me.
Yeah, no chance, mate.
I think I tipped about 2 winners in the end in round number 1, but I thought the footy was good. I think the story to come out of round 1 was the St George-Illawarra Dragons under my mate Flano. He was been telling me for weeks that he wanted them fitter, faster, stronger, and that's exactly what they look like in that win over the Titans. The fullback, Tyrell Sloan, scored 3 tries, so I think there might be a light at the end of the tunnel for the Dragons. If they defend like they did, if they put on some points like they did in the second half, they might be a force to be reckoned with, as opposed to what they have looked like over the last few years. So good on the Dragons and their supporters.
Yeah, when it comes to the top 3, the top 4 teams, it's a very brave person who's going to argue that Penrith, Melbourne, and Brisbane won't be in it. Could you add the Roosters to that after what you saw after them shutting Brisbane down to just 10 points?
Oh, definitely, and they've probably got one of the the star-studded side's capable of going all the way this year. And I ran into Trent Robinson at the airport, and even he was a bit hard on himself, actually, Trent, the coach of the Roosters. He said, I've got to be better as a coach this year and everything else. And I thought to myself, he's not the one who's out there dropping the ball and throwing the forward passes and, turning over possession. So, look, at the end of the day, the buck stops with the coach, I suppose, and everything he said to me really impressed me. So, with the star-studded side they've got with the Tedescos, I love watching Victor Radley. I thought Joseph Swaliti played well in Vegas as well. I think they're going to be another force to be reckoned with, the Roosters, along with, the Storm and the Panthers and everybody else.
The balance between wanting to make it the most super fast game as well as retaining the absolute brutality that league fans love. And I look back to that arm wrestle between Penrith and Melbourne, an 8-0 scoreline, which when you look at modern day league, it's kind of like, God, the 60s want their score back. So just in terms of that, getting that balance right, how do you see that unfolding throughout the season?
When it comes to scorelines and everything, I called the game between the Storm and the Panthers on the weekend, and it was a real dour affair. It was, defence wins matches, as the old saying goes, and the Storm did remarkably well. I mean, it wasn't a high-scoring game. It was only 8-0 in the end, but it was a real war of attrition, a real arm wrestle between those two teams. And, yes, we have the excitement machines in the game, and we'll probably see that tomorrow with Reece Walsh from the Brisbane Broncos. But when it comes to games that only result in an 8-0 scoreline, I get as much enjoyment out of those as I do the blowouts as well, where we see some of the fantastic tries. So, I'm a bit of a purist. I don't mind the arm wrestles and all that sort of thing. Having said that, when you've got Reece Walsh, when you've got James Tedesco, when you've got some of the other exciting players in the competition, you love seeing them with some room to move and for them to do what they do best. So, looking at round two, we've got a couple of good games to look forward to as well.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the NRL. You look at that draw every week, don't you, and you go, wow, that game. I mean, almost physically impossible to watch them all, but you can actually at least always pick out 3 or 4. Mark Levy is with us from the Continuous Call team. Obviously, I need to ask you about the Warriors, your thoughts on that. Look, if the game switched off after 14 minutes, we'd probably be sitting there going, they're the form team.